This is the brand new Garmin Enduro 3, a watch that claims over 300 hours of GPS battery life, like normal GPS battery life. None of this like ultra track, low update stuff. The real deal. The question is it the real deal? And I've been out here trying to figure that out. However, I've still got 22K left in today's hike, and I'm 70K into it at this point, and so I want to complete this before I get stuck on a mountaintop just so I can finish this video. So let's go down and finish it down there. Okay, so with that hike complete, as well as a whole bunch of other cycling and running and swimming and you name it, we are back here in the cave to dive into what is new about the Enduro 3. And I'll give you something to think about for a second. The price is actually cheaper. Garmin for once dropped the price from $10.99 to $8.99. I'm not kidding. Despite all the Fenix 8 pricing increases, this one actually got cheaper. Now, while you ponder that, I need 30 seconds to explain the history of the Enduro series because it makes a big difference to understand where they're going. So when the Enduro 1 came out in 2022, it was essentially a Fenix 6X with all the useful stuff removed. So stuff like mapping, that got yanked out. Of course, given that most ultra runners and trail runners kind of want maps, that's like the point of a GPS device, that didn't go over super well. So then 18 months later, they came back with the Enduro 2. That took the just released Garmin Fenix 7X with all of its features and just made a bigger battery out of it and also upgraded the flashlight to make it a little more powerful. It was as simple as that. So that just became a Fenix 7X plus, right? Not a Pro because that's something else, but just a bigger, chunkier Fenix 7X with way more battery life. And that was awesome. However, for the Enduro 3, they're kind of splitting the difference there between those two ideals. So as I mentioned, the first new thing was the price has dropped. The second new thing is they've added the new Gen 5 optical heart rate sensor on the back that you see right there. This was the same optical heart rate sensor released with the Garmin Epix Pro and Fenix 7 Pro about a year ago, and now it's here as well. That is notable because this sensor here is ECG capable, at least for certified countries, and as of this moment, that certified country is currently the US. I would expect that to expand down the road here. This also does wrist temperature as well, and it's slightly more accurate. Not like massively more accurate, but I do find it more accurate than in the past. But don't worry, we'll dive into GPS accuracy and heart rate accuracy at the end. Okay, so the next big change then is a massive increase in battery life. This claimed 320 hours that you see right there, right? That's a cool chart. Let's talk about how they do that, which is a new solar panel design. So over here, I've got an Enduro 2, which is representative of essentially all of Garmin's existing solar devices and how they do things. And the way it works is you got this little, you can see on the outside edge right there, that is the solar ring. And that one isn't transparent, so it gets way more solar power. However, across the entire display is another transparent solar panel, and that one gets less power, but contributes to the entire system, right? The problem with the one that's over the top of the display there is that it also contributes to reducing the visibility of the device. You can see these side by side in brilliant studio lighting, and this one just looks a little bit crispier. This one's a little bit more like just a tiny bit not as crispy. I don't know how to explain it. It's just not as crispy, right? Over here on the Enduro 3, they've done two things. Well, three things really when it comes to solar panel. Number one, you'll notice it's black. Like you can't see it. There's no reddish hue anymore on any angle. So it's black, so it looks like it's just part of the bezel. Number two, that ring around the outside is a heck of a lot thicker. Looks like about double the thickness compared to the previous one. And number three, there is no longer a solar panel across the entire display. That is naked, if you will, across that middle portion that you actually look at the screen on. Now at this point, you're probably worried, doesn't that reduce the solar power energy gain? But Garmin says no. In fact, it's 120% stronger with this new solar panel design. And it's not just the sizing and arrangement, it's actually a totally new solar panel design, as somewhat evidenced by the color of that particular solar panel itself. Hey, and a quick note, if you are finding this video interesting and useful, now's a great time to either click the like button or subscribe button, or frankly, just watch the video all the way through. Just let it play all the way through. That's what YouTube likes the most. I'm not kidding. They just want you to play it all the way through. So let's get back to whether or not those battery claims hold water. And to do that, I've been, as I noted, doing some stupid long tests, but also most importantly, I had someone who was equally as gullible with me with another Enduro 3 to try to test out some of these scenarios. So Des of DesFit up in the corner right there, and I went out into the Pyrenees, got absolutely drenched.
Nobody could ever say that we don't put things to the test. and to try to figure out how these different claims actually line up in real life. And on the first day, we did one interesting test. We both had Enduro 3s on. He left his on the Sat IQ mode. Here's again the battery chart right there. I left mine on the GPS only mode. And the GPS only mode is the one they're claiming up to 320 hours of GPS life with solar. And the solar claim there means that it has to have at least 3 hours of sun per day at 50,000 lux. 50,000 lux actually isn't that bright when it comes to sun. It's just a normal sunny day. It's just honestly as simple as that. That is not a problem. And on our hike, we actually had the entire morning was sunny, and then in the afternoon and evening we got dumped on. But of course, we wanted to make things realistic and challenging. So of course we had a course loaded on there, and we were using that course. In fact, we made a pact to use the map screen the entire time across all the watches, the Fenix 8, the Enduro 3, the Epix 2, etc., just to see what that would do. We were actually kind of curious on that. Now, some of us were better at remembering that pack than others. So you'll see that in the chart as to which one of us was better at remembering to keep it on the map screen the entire time and not going back and forth to ClimbPro and whatnot. So with the battery chart in mind, we got the first day here with the map on the entire time, which is the biggest battery burning thing because every single step you take moves that map page and it has to redraw it. So at the end of that 9-hour day, my unit was on track for 57 hours of total capacity versus Dez's unit was on track for 70.83 hours. Again, I probably did a better job of keeping on the map page wholly versus someone else. Now, the next day, I went out again for another 10 hours. Dez decided that was a stupid idea, so he went off and rode a bunch. But in this case, I changed things up a little bit. I kept it on GPS only, but I let it stay mostly on the ClimbPro screen. This day was actually quite sunny, and the majority of my day was spent above the tree line and in the sun in some capacity. So I would expect solar to contribute quite a bit more here. You can see though, at the end of 10 hours here, the Enduro 3 in GPS only mode with again a course loaded the entire time and me navigating with that course had an estimated capacity of 123 hours. Almost precisely their estimate claim they have for GPS only mode without solar, but also that claim doesn't account for navigation, which does of course bring down those numbers. Still, I had kept it on the ClimbPro page the entire time, and I was honestly a little bit surprised that that number wasn't quite a bit higher, given the very high sun I had for, I would say, at least 7 to 8 hours of that day, and the fact that it was on a text-based page. So I shot those results back to Garmin and I said, hey, this seems a little bit, I mean, it's great, but it seems a little bit low to me. And they actually agreed and they said, yep, there's something wrong there. And so they looked into it and there's a firmware update coming in the next few weeks, which should optimize the battery for the ClimbPro page in particular, which is what I was using. I don't know yet whether or not there'll be a big optimization or a little optimization. I just know it's coming, and at some point in September, I'll go out and do something stupid again just to see what the impacts to that particular update are. So before we get into some of the GPS accuracy stuff in the charts there, one of the claims is about that visibility and screen improvements. And yes, you can clearly see that just sitting here that this looks sharper. If I go down right now through this, we find two widgets that are basically identical. You can see this just looks a little bit sharper or a little bit clearer than this one over here, even when the backlight turns off there. And yes, compared to, there's the backlight turned off so you can see what that looks like. And it's a little bit better. The font sizes are also a little bit different as well. The screens themselves are the exact same size, by the way. So this is, and the screen technologies are the exact same underneath it. It is purely the difference of that solar panel being removed. I do want to point out there are scenarios where this display is simply not all that awesome unless you turn on the backlight, either being gesture-based, which is fine, but it burns way more battery life, or having it be manually touched on. And so now is a good time to talk about some of the changes in the user interface because it is different. It takes the Fenix 8 user interface and applies it to this watch here. And depending on where you are, you'll notice it more or less. I'll briefly touch on it here, but you can also watch my complete Fenix 8 user guide video to see how that works like in long form, because it's the exact same thing here because it's the same software. So this is the Enduro 3, Enduro 2. If we go down right here, you'll see the widgets are largely the same, right? They're looking the same, no major differences there. However, where we see the differences is going over into the settings. So going down here, they've rearranged all the settings under this right there so that the most used ones are at the top and they're grouped differently now. The idea being to make it easier for new to Garmin users find stuff, or frankly, most Garmin users find stuff. Obviously, the running joke in Garmin watches is just there's like a gazillion rabbit holes of settings, and this tries to clean those up a little bit. However, from a sports standpoint, that's the biggest single change. So you tap this upper right-hand button right there, and at first you're like, this looks kind of similar. No, it's not. So on the top there, these are your favorite sports. You could pin sports in the past, but the way it works is that right now you can see there's run, bike, swim. These are the ones that I've favorited. And if I go down again, I go over here to activities. This is where I can access the rest of my sports. So down further, all the categorized sports, I can open these up, different categories, etc. And I can pin these to my list right there. So you can see up here, I have run, bike, hike, open water. These are the ones that I've set as kind of my top ones. But if I go back here to this main page and I scroll down, it goes down to the non-sport apps. So these are like Messenger, Music, Garmin Share, etc. They're all here. Speaking of which, just as a reminder, the Enduro 3 has a flashlight up top there, so you can change different modes. So there's white mode, red mode. It's also got music, contactless payments. Again, it's all the same features as a Fenix 8, except for the dive and the speaker microphone pieces. That's the only difference between this and a Fenix 8. It lacks those hardware pieces there from a, again, kind of new hardware perspective. So back into here, I'm going to open up the run. And again, you're going to be like, oh, that looks similar. Nah, it's not. Just scroll down for a second to see what happens. All the settings for run are now down below. Very, very similar to what Suunto does, where you can go down and you can add structured workouts. You can see my daily suggested workout right there for today. You can go down, you can add a course here, crack open courses. There's this new saved function that basically puts all of your saved navigation things in one spot. So I can open up this course right here, and then I can see details about the course. I can go more. I can do the course in reverse. I can view climbs. Let's see, load this up right here. So this is the first climb, 980 meters and 4.74 kilometers. Fun times. I can go back here, and then I can choose to do course. Let me go up. Where's do course? Come on, do course. There we go. And now it's going to load the course into my activity. And so now you'll see the course is loaded right there across the middle. So it shows that one right there. And then I would be able to hit start to start this particular course. Now, watch what happens here.
So while I was editing this, I found the footage that I actually shot this entire next section out on the trail in the middle of the hike. So let's go there now.
Okay, so let's just take a look at the new UI and how this works while you're out in activity in the middle of this super long hike. So I'm 25K or 24.49K into this. That's my compass heading right there. You can see that as I move. There we go. But I'm gonna go down. These are all my normal data pages. These are things I've set up just like you normally would on any other Garmin device. It's all the same right here as well. There's my map page going down again. You can see my ClimbPro page again. These are things I've set up. So middle of a descent right here, 274 meters to go at 1.5 kilometers in this, 1.54 kilometers in this particular descent. Now, I can swipe to the right though, and it immediately says, hey, yo, you gotta unlock this. So there we go. I can do tap unlock, just like that. And again, you can turn that off if you don't like that, but I can swipe to the right. Hey, come on, turn that off, there we go. I can swipe to the right, and this is where I can set up my music on this device. In this case, this watch hasn't been reset up with music on it, but I would find my Spotify or Amazon Music or YouTube Music or MP3s, whatever it may be, all right here. Swiping back to the left right there, you've got my normal data pages again, and then swiping again once more left, I've got what is effectively like a control panel. So I can go down right there, and you can see change sport, save location, all the navigation options you would have, all the activity settings for this particular activity profile, so hiking in this case, all my normal watch settings, so Wi-Fi and my cell phone, stuff like that is all right there. And then up here is the navigation panel. So I can tap into this and see all of my navigation related data fields, data pages in one shot. Going down, I can see whether or not I'm on or off course, distance remaining, so 19.36 kilometers, my ETA tonight, 9:13. Down again, these are waypoints I've set up. So I got a small town up ahead in 2.3K where I'm hoping for some ice cream. I've got the bigger town, campgrounds, and topless time below that. You'll notice that while the screen is now locked, I can still use the up and down buttons like you'd expect. And these are all my ClimbPro climbs. And then finally where I am on this particular course in terms of an elevation profile. I split this course into 2 days, basically roughly in half there. So on my second day right here, sorry, there's lots of flies here, but you can see 1,700 meters today, 430 meters remaining. And you can see where I am, and I'm basically like, I'm past the rough stuff, and it's just kind of a pretty chill rest of the day here. And if you want to get back to the main page, you just simply swipe right again. You do have to unlock it, but you can swipe back, and then here you are on the main data pages.
Now, with that said, let's get into the accuracy side of things, because this is fun. I was pushing the boundaries a little bit here. So starting off with the simple stuff, here is basically a GPS test in a city going back and forth down some buildings just to like establish a baseline. You can see it is perfectly fine. This is in sat IQ mode, no problems at all. Also, just for funsies, here's the heart rate from that. Again, Zero issues whatsoever. It's good across the board. There's just some minor nuances in cycling outdoors as the terrain gets rougher where you'll see some variance, but for running, I've had no issues whatsoever. Instead though, let's look into the mountains because that's where things matter a bit. And here on this first screen, this is where I had the Enduro 3 in GPS only mode, but Des had his in Sat IQ mode. And you can see going up this slope in the woods here, this was like 25% or so, most of the side, kind of a bank if you will, with kind of dense trees, that the one in the GPS only mode wasn't quite as good. You can see it's kind of a bit more wandering and whatnot, but it wasn't bad either. Like it's not horrible, it just simply wasn't quite as crispy as the rest of the units there that were in Sat IQ mode. Here we are descending down next to some really high cliffs that, I don't know, went like maybe 500 feet up straight up next to us here. Very, very steep cliffs, very close to them, poor GPS coverage, yet from an accuracy standpoint, all the watches were basically indistinguishable back and forth in those switchbacks. There's no meaningful difference there. And again, if we look at the total distance stats at the end of that day one there, on 28 kilometers, the distance variance was a maximum of 300 meters between the lowest and the highest unit. That's it. That's not too bad. And almost all those units, if we took away the GPS only one, were within 200 meters, which is, again, very solid given the challenging terrain and the weather, since it was dumping thunderstorm and hail and all that kind of stuff. Good job there. So then looking at the second day here, again, I compared GPS only and Sat IQ side by side. And across the board, it was virtually identical, especially once I got above the tree line. There was no difference whatsoever between these units. They were spot on. I did though see more difference in the total distance at the end of this day. 38 kilometers for the Enduro 3 in GPS only mode versus the rest of them were somewhere between 35.67 and 37.8 kilometers. So a bit more variance there. I don't really know why, I'm kind of surprised, but there was also a lot of bushwhacking I had to do at one point for an hour or so maybe that contributed in some way, shape, or form. However, we have one more rabbit hole to unravel here when it comes to the Enduro 3 as well as the Fenix 8, which is a setting that allows you to go ahead and have it automatically process your tracks afterwards to correct for GPS inaccuracies. Specifically, it'll do that when it sees the GPS accuracy of the device was questionable during a route. It won't do it for every single activity, and only does it for pedestrian activities, so running, hiking, walking, etc., as well as open water swims. And what it does is it takes all the internal sensor data in the watch, so things like the gyro and the accelerometer and the compass and all that fun, all that data there, and then it sends it up to Garmin Connect, and then it tries to correct for any inaccuracies and pulls it back down again. And so what I've been doing is capturing both the before and after file for all of my activities to see where I could spot these differences. And I'm gonna do an entirely separate video on that because it's super fascinating. But just to look at this one little section here, you can see the Enduro 3 taking the before and the after file, and there are differences there. Very slight differences. But what I tend to see though, is it smooths out some of the shake that you see on the GPS only track and makes it nearly identical to the Sat IQ track. Point of that whole kind of like thing there being that you can more comfortably use GPS only, whereas most people, most of the time, even myself, I would have said in the back, don't do that, just do Sat IQ. You could use GPS only to get yourself quite a bit more battery life without any major impacts from a GPS accuracy standpoint. So that's something to consider. And again, there's way more accuracy data in my written reviews that are linked down below there because it's just not that exciting to watch on YouTube, to be honest. Okay, so where are we overall? Well, essentially, the Enduro 3 takes the software from a Fenix 8, the hardware from a Fenix 7X Pro, adds in a new solar panel called the new solar panel, and then that gives you an Enduro 3, right? It's honestly as simple as that. Which means that if you are a MIP-based lover, that if you didn't care about diving and you did not care about a microphone or speaker, then this could really be your Fenix 8 for you for $300 cheaper. Like it's honestly as simple as that. I would look at it that way as opposed to thinking about the Fenix 8 being so expensive for the MIP-based displays. That's just my 2 cents. I can't help you if you want a smaller one or a medium-sized one, but at least that option is there for the larger ones. Overall, setting aside my display personal preferences, this watch works pretty darn well. The UI is a little bit sluggish at times, but it's also sluggish on the Fenix 8 as well at times. I suspect that'll get optimized over the next few weeks and months as they kind of stick the landing on that new UI, but otherwise I don't really have any complaints. I love how lightweight it is. I'm somewhat indifferent on the strap only because after you take a shower or jump in the water and then you put it on your clothing, it looks like you peed your pants because it makes all your clothing wet or the couch wet, etc. But, you know, can't win them all. With that, if you found this video interesting or useful, go ahead and whack that like button at the bottom or hit subscribe for plenty more sports technology goodness. Have a good one.